National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batohi. Her term ends in just 4 months, but still no word on who will be her successor. Batohi will reach the mandatory retirement age and vacate her office at the end of January. In a country grappling with corruption, deepening inequality, and one of the highest violent crime rates in the world, strong and independent public institutions such as the NPA are more critical than ever. The pressing question is, who will lead the NPA next? Let's unpack this with Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach, a DA MP and a former prosecutor. Advocate Breytenbach, it's a pleasure having you on. Thanks for joining us. I want to look at the response from the presidency and from Vincent Magwenya on this issue. He says that the president wants to redo the process that led to Advocate Batohi's appointment. According to my calculations, that entire process, which Magwenya says was transparent, it was all above board, it was an independent panel, etc. It took all in all 7 months, which we clearly do not have.
Yeah. Yes, well, certainly it's very laudable that the president wishes to follow that procedure, because you must bear in mind that he's not obliged to. Currently, the Constitution allows him to appoint a head of the National Prosecuting Authority. And it's one of the things that we want to amend to in fact entrench this process of transparent public process, public participatory process, and then an appointment. We think it's much better. So it's laudable that the president wants to follow that approach again. But having said that, everybody has known for some time that Advocate Batohi must vacate her office in January. And that the process takes a while. And this process is going to take even longer, I think, because I think there are fewer candidates that are available for that job than there were for the previous process. And so it's going to be difficult to find suitable candidates, in my view, and very difficult to find a suitable candidate. The president does have the option under very special circumstances to extend Advocate Batohi's term for a period, but that's not ideal. We can't keep on kicking for touch. We need to find, identify, and entrench a new director who can kind of job shadow Advocate Batohi, really, ideally, because that's a really big job. It's a very, very big job. It's a very important job. It's a job in which every single South African has a very vested interest, and it's not the kind of job that you walk in on the 1st of February and you can do it. It's a big job.
No, absolutely, and I think there's no overstating just how incredibly high the stakes are in terms of who will be the next National Director of Public Prosecutions. And as you say, it's not a job that you can start on the 1st of February, having not had a handover period, surely. And if there is going to be a handover period, which I imagine there should and would be, it should begin, 6 months in advance?
Well, ideally, yes, 6 months, perhaps even more.
Yeah.
If you have not grown up in the ethos of the National Prosecuting Authority, it's an extremely difficult job to take over, because it's not just about the law. It's not just about criminal justice. It's not just about the National Prosecuting Act and the Constitution. It's about an entire organization that does a huge range of things, from criminal prosecutions to civil litigation in asset forfeiture. There's many departments. There's a huge amount of work to be done just to understand the structure of the National Prosecuting Authority, and to understand how it's divided up, and then to understand who leads those divisions, and then to get a grip of who those people are that are leading those divisions, so that you can make a judgment call on who your team is going to be. And a lot of those people are also nearing retirement age. And so that exacerbates the problem exponentially.
I imagine that it doesn't come as a surprise, though, that there has been, certainly from the outside, what looks like a delay. I don't know, maybe there's work being done in the background that perhaps we are not privy to. You would be privy to that as an MP, perhaps.
Sadly not.
You're not. But it wouldn't come as a surprise, given that, as far as I know, we still don't have a replacement for the Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions who passed away at the start of the year.
No, Advocate de Kock very sadly passed away at the beginning of the year. Advocate Mznyati is acting in that position. Advocate Mznyati comes with a past that is not stellar, and so is not a suitable appointment for that job. So somebody else has to be found for that position, and it's an important position. It's the head of the NPS, the National Prosecuting Service. So that is the division of the National Prosecuting Authority that deals with prosecutions, from traffic fines in the district court to state capture prosecutions of the highest order. So it's a massive department. It needs a firm hand. It needs somebody who understands perfectly the workings of the National Prosecuting Authority. It's very hard to find somebody. Even you know, the suspension of Advocate Chauke in South Gauteng, he's been replaced by another DPP from Northwest who's now acting in his position. I'm not even sure that that's procedurally correct. And then there's somebody else acting in his position. So all of these acting positions in high positions are not ideal. It's very difficult to make lasting, permanent decisions when you're in an acting position. And it shows the lack of depth in the National Prosecuting Authority, that people cannot be found to fill these positions, that others must be shifted around to act in their stead.
Yeah, I mean, in your mind, you know, when we think about who might come in to replace the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batohi, should we at least be able to look at the NPA and say that we have these options? And from what I'm hearing from you, that is not currently the case.
Well, if you were to ask me the question differently and say, can I suggest one person, you know, in South Africa at the moment who meets all the requirements for that position, who I think should get the job, I cannot give you a name.
Sure. Is there a sense of paralysis that's coming through in terms of, I mean, it's very difficult to understand, given the state of the NPA, given the state of state capture prosecutions and how dismally we have failed there. The fact that Shamila Batohi came in at a very, very difficult time, and the past few years have not been a shining example of perhaps where we should be as the National Prosecuting Authority. Given the context of the country, at the start of our interview, we outlined the issue of rising crime, corruption, and the list goes on and on. There does seem to be a lack of clarity, at least on the part of the presidency, certainly a lack of urgency. That's how we're reading it, isn't it?
Well, you'd be reading it correctly. Sadly, there is, in my view, a lack of urgency for arguably the most important state department in the country. Crime is out of hand in South Africa. There are no South Africans anymore who are not touched by crime on a daily basis. It happens all the time. It happens everywhere in differing degrees of severity. But each person's case for them is the most important case. And we are dropping the ball quite seriously. Forget about the high-level corruption, high-level organized crime. Just if you look at gender-based violence, we're not winning there.
Yeah.
If you look at just ordinary assault, murder, we're not winning there. We are losing this war. So the National Prosecuting Authority is unbelievably important, and there is a lack of urgency. But it's an orchestrated, in my view, lack of urgency, because as you correctly said, when Advocate Batohi came into the NPA, she took over a seriously damaged institution. And she's had to do an enormous amount of work to try and turn it around. And she has done a lot of work to her credit to try and turn it around. Whether she succeeded or not is a different story. But the fact of the matter is the core function of the National Prosecuting Authority is to prosecute people for antisocial behavior. And that is not happening sufficiently successfully. And so, while she's had a lot to do, and there are many facets to her job, and I can't stress enough how big a job it is. Certainly not a one-woman job. The National Prosecuting Authority isn't where we want it to be. Certainly not by any stretch of the imagination. And it has been starved purposefully of resources. Every single year, the budget of the NPA is slashed. This year, they got a miserly little addition to their budget. Nothing even close to what they need to successfully prosecute crime in this country. And the issue is not only the NPA, so the police's budget is also slashed. And the prosecuting authority is no good having a Rolls-Royce prosecuting authority if you don't have a Rolls-Royce police service, because the policemen investigate the cases that the prosecutors must prosecute. And by starving those two departments of resources, both financial and otherwise, you ensure that they can't do their job.
I mean, it certainly speaks to some of the discussion that's doing the rounds, that the president does suffer from some form of paralysis in decision-making, and perhaps, as you say, and as other analysts have said as well, that it is purposeful, that there is a reluctance to prosecute those within the upper echelons of government. So in that context, I mean, that is conjecture, right? So in that context, what should be the role of Parliament here?
Well, Parliament can only, at certain times when the opportunity presents itself, ask questions of the President. The Constitution as it stands, and the National Prosecuting Authority Act as it stands, gives him the power to appoint somebody and to not even follow this process that he wishes very laudably to follow. So at the moment, in my view, the Act is, the position is not a good one. And we're working to amend those clauses so that provision changes. But Parliament can only, when it comes to discussing the budget and appropriations of budget, the Justice Portfolio Committee has taken the stance that we will go to the Appropriations Committee and argue for a bigger budget for the National Prosecuting Authority. But that is, pie in the sky. And what are we going to get? $1 million or $2 million here or there? It's going to make no difference. The National Prosecuting Authority needs to be properly resourced, both financially and otherwise. And it's not. The South African police needs to be properly resourced, financially and otherwise. It's not. And so they're doing the best that they can, which is at the moment really not good enough, with what they've got, which is very little. So the situation is not ideal. We are what we are. We're a country that is, financially struggling. It's not getting better with wasting money on, spurious flights of the imagination. And money is not spent on those things that matter. And until we can turn that around, until we can change that, Parliament is kind of in a position where it can only argue these issues, bring them to the attention of the National Assembly, and try and put pressure on the President by asking questions, which I've done, and issue statements, which I've done, to get him to get on with this process, because we're running out of time. We have run out of time. We're not running out of time. We have run out of time. It's September. We've got October, November, December. Everyone's on holiday. January, Shamila's got to leave. So we've run out of time.
The clock is ticking in a country, as we said at the start of this discussion, where corruption is rife. We've got one of the world's highest violent crime rates. We've talked about gender-based violence, and the list goes on and on. Where is the urgency to appoint a replacement as the National Director of Public Prosecutions? There's a cabinet briefing taking place at 11 o'clock this morning. Hopefully that will be at the top of the agenda. Glynnis Breytenbach, thanks for your time. Advocate Breytenbach is a DA MP and a former prosecutor.